we've moved on to, we really wanted to try and maximize the opportunities for their reading opportunities. So, and I'll go through one of the mindful readings that they are doing now. Then we have some student voice. So that's really a chance for the teacher to provide the oral input and to have a discussion about something of interest with the students. So there's shared dialogue there. And then we do a shared reading, a shared writing, and followed by a shared reading and an exit ticket, or if there's a time for an additional activity. So that's basically, we move through that cycle. You'd go.
Knee.
Yeah,
Oh.
you'd make, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we could start with just ich, ni, san, and then ich, ni, san. And then to make it more challenging, then we substitute one of the numbers for the gestures, or in the case of the inu, it would be inu. So it would go like this. So to start with, we'll just do the numbers. So ich,
Knee.
san,
Ich.
ni,
San.
ich,
Knee.
san, etc.
Ich.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
try and
Okay.
keep it quicker.
Oh, yeah.
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 And
Okay.
then just to sort of, once they've got that, then they move into the gestures. So we'd substitute itchy for this.
For the snap. Yeah. Okay.
You would say ni,
Knee.
san, and then you do ni,
San. Oh, no, knee.
san.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Okay, so that one, and then it gets progressively more difficult. So it would be, if you start,
Uh, Inu.
inu, etc. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
So
that's good. Yeah.
yeah, so that was a fun one. This one is again for Burger Man. The year threes are doing the Burger Man book.
Oops.
Is this
Yeah.
one. And so this is some of the vocab in that. So we thought we would do, and again, because they're doing quite a substantial amount of reading, we really became aware that of the importance. I mean, we know how important brain breaks are, but when there's so much reading, we just knew that we had to inject more brain breaks. So we've been thinking of different ways to do that don't take up too much of the lesson, because of course that's precious, and but the brain breaks are essential. So if we can incorporate them, both the language and a bit of a break, it's it's a bonus. So this one, it's just the forward, backwards, and turn. So there's a few different ways of doing this, but
Okay.
so if they're in, they can be individual to start, and then you can also do it in a circle, which is a lot of fun too. So they're just sort of hands on the person in front of them, and the teacher would be saying sushi, and so they'd move back. Natto, forward.
Right.
Pizza, and then they'd have to all turn around. So it's just a quick one. But that gets them up and moving. So the mindful
Seems
passwords, yeah. So,
there.
sorry, how are you, Tessa?
Sorry, morning. Good, thank you. With that one, are they actually walking forwards and backs, or are they just leaning?
So it's a stand-up one, and they're jumping forward, they're jumping back, or
They walk around
they're turning. So you've got two students.
so they're just kind of moving on the spot rather than walking?
Yeah, moving on the spot. It's just one step
Okay.
forward, backwards, and turning around. So,
Okay.
although if you were saying sushi, natto, so it would be sushi, natto, pizza.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have to listen to the vocab that the teacher's giving. So and then do the action. So sushi, natto, pizza, pizza,
Mm.
sushi. So yeah, they're moving and listening to the vocab at the same time. So that's that
Mm.
one. Yeah. And what I like about this one is that you can actually change whatever vocab you really want to try and target, you can just substitute. So we've also done mae, ushiro, mawate. So you can, it's quite a versatile sort of little brain break.
Mm.
So that's that one. And then, so yeah, the mindful passwords, what we've been doing is um, there's an oral password that they say to come in to the class. So this particular teacher has the students line up outside. It's so that they come to her classroom and they line up outside. She has student job tasks and she changes those each term. So each term there would be a security person and the password person. And the security person of the password person goes and checks with the teacher what's the key, what's the password today. And we have recycled lots of, again, depending on what book that they're working on, they will choose. So I think this week's was dakara. So that was a brand new word for them. So that was the word to come in. So the password person goes along and tells the line of students what the word is, and then they have to say that word to the security person to get into the class. So that's been, and she has a great routine. The kids know exactly what to do. As I think I told you last week, I spent 2 weeks with them, and like her routines are fantastic. They're really smooth. And it's just an opportunity them, you know, for the for you to, target any words that you might need to. It's a chance for everyone to just, in a very safe way, share, use one Japanese word, straight away, straight off the bat. So it normalizes everything. So that's what I had noticed when I went there. They were the routines were great. And so we wanted to, and what we did do last term was then choose a word in kanji, and that was projected up on the board with the stroke orders, and they were practicing those ones. And it was just really only about 3 minutes for them to settle down, practice there, and just to sort of get into the learning space, I suppose. Um, but we really wanted to try and extend on that. And as um, their reading ability had increased, we really wanted to maximize any reading opportunities. So then we extended into mindful reading. So I don't know whether you can see, but that's covered. So each student, she has these. We created these that actually, again, pages from the book. So they have one of these, they glue it into their book, and then um, they spend, and again, some students might only get the first, 2 or 3 sentences done. Others, they're up to the volleyball reading activity. So what she had noticed is that at the beginning, obviously, everything's taking a lot longer, that this was much longer than what we had thought, the time amount. However, over the course of this term that they've been doing it, they really has they've seen a noticeable increase in speed of their reading and processing. So so again, it just provides another opportunity for the students to revisit the text that they've been working on. And so as well as reading, then just a little bit of focus on form where they can underline different parts of the text, just to sort of zone in on some things. And then there'd be some shared reading after that. So that's the mindful, and they've been building up to this. So the first part was just a little bit shorter, and so this was week 3's. So that's the mindful, and again, she's built in a really nice routine with this. The students know what to do, and the thing that she had noticed is it's the normalizing of the reading. So it's not I'll share a bit of her feedback that she in a further in the presentation here. But so that's the mindful reading. So I'm not sure. Are you happy for me?
Sorry, so can I just clarify? So,
Yeah.
is this the text that you're working with as well in the class?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so it starts off the first week they in mindful reading just a little bit of it.
Hmm.
But is it this a different task each week as well on the left there or
Yes. So each week, so we've been working on, for example, Bergerman. So we've been working on the structures of Bergerman, which basically these type of texts are really focused on the Super 7, which is, in Bergerman's case, it's Des and Janai and Skides with a few extra vocab in there. So there's a lot of repetition of those ones. You can't see it here. It looks very text heavy here, but there's a lot of repetition. So yes, they're working with these books, and each week they will get a new page or 2 pages of text, and as their mindful password. Yeah. So, yeah, so there's, I'm not really sure what else to say with that, except that uh, the oral, the oral input that they're having beforehand really supports this. So it's really known language. It's becoming more and more familiar.
So you wouldn't start this like right away. This is
No.
a task you'd do later in the
Yeah.
unit, right? Later in the
Yeah.
reading.
So bearing in mind that last term was really the foundational stuff. So they did a lot of pre-reading activities before this is the first this term is the first time that they've been reading mindful reading passages like this. But having said that, that's the progress that they have made over the course of last term. So, they're when we surveyed them at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the term of term 2, and we said, look, how do you feel about reading something? We showed a snip. I think it was only 2 sentences, and the feedback that they gave was just like, nah, there's no way known I can do that. And then at the end of the term, last term, we surveyed them again and said, how do you feel about reading? And I don't know, Tessa, whether I've shared these with you, and I just don't have the percentages off the top of my head at the moment, except for year 4. I remember theirs was 1% thought that they had expressed any confidence in reading a passage like that, which was only about 2 or 3 sentences. And that jumped to 84% feeling confident with what they were reading. Like, it was really, really quite substantial. And I put that down to the fact that they have had so much exposure to reading. We've really tried hard to build up that rigor, that reading rigor, and demystifying the script. So yeah. So yes, so that's that.
Sorry, Monique.
Yeah,
How many times, how long is the lesson? How many times a week do
60
they have?
minutes. Yeah,
Once a week.
once a week.
Yeah, okay.
And, of course, there are some weeks where, we've had to roll with those. So there's been some, as with every school, lots of disruptions that, we've had to, navigate. But what I really like about a very comprehensible, heavy structure like this is that and because the language is so recycled in lots of different ways, and the input is like the oral input is such a big part of the lesson, um, the, there seems to be, and of course not with every student, of course not, but with the bulk of the students, they are, even with the lessons that are missed, because of that cyclic nature of the program, they're still making progress. And I've got a video to show you in a minute of George, who has just started. So, and it's wonderful to see, just the progress that can be made with lots of comprehensible input, rich activities. Thing of this. All right. Where are we up to? We've done that. We've done that. Okay. Oh, so yeah, so then as a class, then they'll go through, it's just another chance for them to revisit this, and they'll check that through that. And all the while the teacher is giving, support with the reading and modeling that. So yeah, so the student voice is a really big part of the lesson structure. And I'm just giving you a couple of examples of activities that we have done over the last couple of weeks. And this one was particularly fun, Dare no Unko, because in um, in Australia, this one, Unko is mentioned. It's all about, well, it ends up being about Uluru, but it starts with, something brown, and what could it possibly be? Is it Unko? And of course, that's lots of fun for a student in year 4. So this was a chance again, just for that interaction. So, wombat no unko, and then, having a discussion, they have to choose then, kore, sore, kore wa wombat no unko desu ka? So you're keeping it really simple and, very comprehensible. And, there's lots to discuss with this. And she said it was a really engaging activity. So, checking chairo desu ka? Hai, chairo desu. Demo, wombat no unko desu ka? And, checking the size and the color, and getting them to guess and to vote, and then counting up which one, and then the big reveal. いいえ、これはウォンバットのうんこじゃないです。じゃないです。誰のうんこですか? And then, so you're priming the kids up then for the answer. ヒポのうんこです。ウォンバットのうんこじゃないです。これはウォンバットのうんこです。 So that's one example. Another example was a picture talk. So again, discussing this using some of the keywords here. We did a little story about, gave the dog a name, checked whether it was happy or sad, um, what it wants. I think they created a little story. So each of the classes had their own little story, and they'd an individual one that she could then retell the other classes. So this one was done with the year twos. And so, um, there was a dog called Barney and one called, Sammy. So there were four different little mini stories, and he was not happy. Um, he wanted a bone or he wanted something else. So really short, little simple stories and where he went to get it and if it was there or not. Then moving on then after that oral input, that student voice, the shared writing. So we did this a couple of ways. So write and discuss, I'm a really big fan of because it is teacher directed, but the input is from the students, and the students are seeing the creation of these sentences in real time. So, with a little bit of prompting, they're co-writing it together, but the teacher is doing the bulk of the lifting there. So there was over here, I think this one was the year fours, and they had a little picture talk or a movie talk about an unusual ninjin, and just creating lots of basic sentences there. And, the oishi was one of the key vocabs. So, and omoshiroi there. So recycling those. Yeah, so coming up with different sentences that can recycle those high frequency words that we're using, like des and Janaides and adjectives there. And then they also then, the students did this last week. She gave them, they worked in pairs, and she gave them, they had whiteboards, and they collectively created as many sentences as they could. It really was to see what language was there. So it was in Romaji, although she did say some of the really confident kids were really wanting to write in Japanese in script. But this was more of a comprehension check, I suppose, and just to see what sentences that they could create after listening to the picture talk and talking about the pictures, or whatever the student voice activity was that they had just done. And something that was really interesting here, we had the prompt up on the board. So that was this one here. And she said after the first one, she said, you know what, it was a little bit different here. I think there was des. And she said, they actually know the structure. It's there when they're talking, when she's talking and doing the oral input stage and they're discussing it, they're using it in the correct form, in the correct format. However, as soon as they were using this little word wall here to produce, that's all of a sudden then they switched into English. And so you can see here, inu desu kanashi. So the students then switched into the English word order. And so we decided to take away the prompt when they were doing this, and that worked much, much better. So for the oral input, having them up there so they could see the words up there so they could see what the meaning was really was very helpful. But when they were to produce and create their own sentences, it sort of prevented them from listening to the little Japanese voice in their head rather than switching straight into English. So that was some good feedback. Yeah, and this is just, we removed the Romaji support for writing, so they were able to focus more on hearing hearing what sounds right, and that worked well. And also, the other thing, that feedback then just showed us that, basically they just needed more input, and that's okay too. So the shared reading or the reading games, this was the feedback from the teacher. Let's move that over there. So as I said before, they're doing lots of reading, and we're looking at different ways to make that reading really interesting and varied, but still they need lots of exposure to the same structures, but of course done in different ways, so it's not predictable and it doesn't get boring. So that's our challenge. But they are doing a lot of reading, and it is a workout. So as I mentioned before, the brain breaks are really, really essential, and that's been working well when, adding more short, sharp brain breaks in has been working well. She does lots of reading with table groups. She has 6 table groups, and so she does lots of work with the tables, reading together, and that's really been, you can see in the videos that she's taking to that collaboration, which is great. And similarly, the choral reading has really helped support the fluency and confidence of the students. I can see that in the videos. And yeah, just finding that balance between including some perhaps more creative or more active activities, or activities that are not quite so cognitive heavy, but that do reinforce acquisition. So yeah, just getting the balance right between choosing wisely over the type of resources when time is so limited. So that's something that we have discussed too. Case in point, here is one little tweak that we did on the bingo, which made it a little bit more input focused. So as I said, they've been working on the different books and content in the books. So these were the bingo cards that I created. And so there's a variety of different ones. So this is just 2. And we spent a bit of time reading these as the explanation for each. So what each picture is and what it could be. So then they're reading it together and matching, so making sure that they knew what the meaning was. So this was like a pre-activity, I suppose, to the bingo. So they read through these. There was nine pictures, 9 little sentences here, and check for comprehension. And then the teacher then was reading out. So it became then a listening, not only a reading, but a listening activity. So she would be reading out the bingo sentences. So, and then they would have to mark those off if they had them or not. So it was just another way to revisit the language again, but in a little bit of a different way. And this was just some observation and student feedback. She, at the end of last week, she, prior to the reading that they were doing, she said, look, how do you feel about your reading? And, some students said that they, were really proud. Some were surprised. Some were still a bit nervous, but the majority of the students said that they were really impressed with themselves. So that's been something that we've been really conscious of throughout the project, of just monitoring any changes in the students' self-perception of their ability to be reading in characters. Now, I hope that you can hear it here. I know it was a bit fuzzy last time when I went. Whoops. Can you hear that? Or is it? Or is that fuzzy? Can you hear that?
ですか。私はボリスですか。私はボリスじゃないです。じゃない。ボリスも。
I'll just check. Can you hear that? Is that coming through okay? Or is it a bit fuzzy?
Yeah. No,
Fuzzy.
it's pretty good.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I
It
can
sort
hear
of, yeah, stops a little bit, but it's still clear.
Okay, I'll finish it then. It's just, so this is George. He's only started. This is a year 2 student, and yeah, he's doing really well considering, and you can also hear the support that he's getting from his classmates here. So I'll just finish this one. Oh dear.
ボリスは猫ですか。私はボリスですか。私はボリスじゃないです。じゃない。ボリスも。私も。そして犬じゃないです。ボリスは黒です。And I don't know how to do the last one.
Yeah, so I think normalizing that and just yeah, that's the thing that I have noticed with over the course of this period of time, I suppose, is just because of the it's been built up so that their reading is being supported, and the support has been gradually being released a bit. Yeah, there's been good success with that, I think. It's been really pleasing. Okay, so this, as I said, when there's a lot of reading, we've been really trying to maximize activity, movement, but still make every opportunity a reading opportunity. So this one is Nihongo Switch, and it's a fun game that can be used in, for lots of different, in lots of different ways, for lots of different purposes. You can just simply change out the sentences here, but basically each student gets a piece of one of these worksheets, and so they have their own copy. They put that at the table. Well, it's their own copy, but everybody has a go at completing other people's work. So they each have their own. They put it on their desk. The teacher starts some music. When the music is playing, they're moving around and, just to the music. As soon as the music stops, wherever they are, the closest piece of paper, worksheet, they have to complete one of these. So circle cut. And so they have to read that and circle cut. And then the music will go again and, they're moving around. So they can only complete one from the same sheet. So they're moving around and eventually after 9 stops, 6, they complete the whole page, and then they go back to their seats and check through and make sure they're all correct. So that's Nihongo switch. And then we just finish off with an exit ticket, and it could be a new Japanese word today.